Welcome to the Film Illiterates podcast, your home for uninformed, unfiltered, ill-advised movie talk. As always, I'm Joe Campbell, and joining me today are my infamous companions Nathan Stone.
Hello, hello.
And Alex Patton.
Hi.
So, it's been a little bit crazy recently. No, it hasn't. That's a terrible segue. Anyway, we're tired of talking about movies.
We are, honestly, of everything we've done, from architecture movies to anime movies to
like two priest movies in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, we don't even need an excuse. We're just going to bring things down today and just have fun with another grab bag episode. If anybody remembers when we done the occasional grab bag episode.
I think those were our Oscars podcasts or episodes.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, our grab bag episodes are we have a list of just tons of random dumb topics. Some of them require a little bit more conversation, some of them are just kind of like shitpost conversations.
I'm looking at the list right now, actually. There's like about 50 questions we have.
Yeah, and we keep adding to them. So what this episode is going to be is we are going to do a quick fire discussion of a random assortment of questions from this list, where we will be timed, I think, about 5 minutes per conversation. We just get in, get out, move on to the next question. So it's kind of more of a fun, relaxed, casual hangout episode than what we usually have.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. These are always fun. We usually try to do these around the Oscar time, but at this point, who's keeping track? The Oscars did technically happen recently.
Well, and also, honestly, we didn't even know if the Oscars would get pushed back again and again each month. So when you think about it, we kind of scheduled this pretty accurately if they had kept pushing it back. So
that's true. Before we get into that, let's talk about what we've watched on our own recently. You know what? I'll kick us off today. Why not? Because the first movie I'm going to talk about is a movie that you two dummies talked about, I think, on the last episode, which I hadn't seen yet, but I've seen now, which is 2021's Mortal Kombat.
Oh, finally.
So I think last time we talked about this, we had one who is nay, we had one who is yay. Joe,
our tiebreaker.
It's aight.
right down the middle. All right.
I do honestly come kind of right down the middle of this. I started this movie off and I thought, this is kind of kick-ass. I really liked the beginning of the movie. It was going along pretty well. Then at a certain point, I just stopped caring. And the characters, I mean, it's one of those movies where death doesn't matter, which a movie can do a death doesn't matter style story, and I'd be fine with it. But at a certain point, I just kind of started feeling like, oh, none of this matters. They're just going to kill off characters to bring them back, or they're going to have the opportunity to bring them back. And I realized I don't really care about any of these characters except for Kano, who was the best character in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And the movie itself kind of dragged on. Yet, I still enjoyed the fights, and the violence was kind of fun, and the set pieces were kind of fun. So I still enjoyed it, I think, for the most part. Immediately finishing the movie, I kind of came down negative on it. I thought, that wasn't great. I mean, it wasn't awful, but it wasn't great. And then thinking about it more, I'm like, well, there was a lot of fun stuff in there. So I think I gave it like 3 stars on Letterboxd, but I could go either way. It's not a great movie, but it's a pretty fun movie.
Now, I can't remember what I graded this movie on, but I think it was similar within that range between 3 and 4 stars. It's just, even though I rated it similar to what you did, Joe, I kind of favored it a lot more than, I think most people did. And, you guys are right. It's not great character development, but I think with the characters that they do have, they did pretty good with it compared to what we got for the first time around. So, I hate to always kind of be the guy that just compares the movie, but,
Yeah, everybody complains that there's no actual tournament, which I didn't care about because they still had one-on-one fights.
Yeah, and I guess that's something we need to clarify is this is part of a trilogy. The tournament's not going to come until the second movie.
Oh, no. The second movie's not going to happen, Nate, after this movie.
What?
I mean, after the reaction to this movie.
I'm still going to give it my money if they decide to push for it. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, hell yeah. I'll watch more Mortal Kombat movies. I'm looking forward to seeing what who they cast as Johnny Cage. I just don't expect they're going to end up making more because it doesn't seem like this first one was very favorably accepted.
Do you guys think that this is just like it's always destined to kind of like almost succeed and fail at the same time? It feels like that was the first time around. They put all this money towards it, didn't work the first time. Now this is a second reboot, still ain't working. I think that's just the pattern we're going to see. Kind of like Fantastic Four. It's just never going to work.
Well, that's how video game movies are in general. Their video games are typically very difficult to adapt. And I think this is just like another one in the cycle of they haven't quite figured out the formula.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I think that's just kind of the fate of video game movies, unfortunately.
Maybe we'll get into this, but I think maybe we'll save this for another. Actually, I take that back. I think we talked about this when we did our video game adaptations podcast. But I think the problem with most video game adaptations is there's just so much world building. There's so much lore that you have to cram into there that you compensate character arcs and development in the process of it.
Yeah.
So there's some rare cases where it does work, but let's face it, they tried that with Warcraft. That was way too much of a movie.
Oh, yeah.
So, and they still screwed that up. So maybe that's just a given. Hollywood needs to just reevaluate how they do it.
I mean, you're condensing depending on the game, you're condensing a several hour to, like a dozen hour, even if you get one of the longer ones, a dozen hour like storyline into an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Right.
And yeah, that's not easy to do. And especially because, with video games, you'll have a lot of instances where you'll be provided with different points to learn more about the lore and learn more about the background of the story or the world that you're in and stuff like that. That's not explicitly told within the like mainframe of the story itself.
Right. Yeah. Eventually Hollywood will get it, but sorry, Joe, we're just like stealing all your thunder.
No, that's fine. I actually forgot that we did an episode on video game movies. So I would like to point our audience, if you want to hear us talk more about specifically adapting video games, we do have a conversation somewhere in our backlog of episodes.
And how much we loved Mario Brothers, right?
Oh God, okay.
So much.
Yeah,
so much. Next one I'm going to talk about is I picked up Speed from 1994, directed by Jan de Bont. I picked up the 4K Blu-ray, watched this one again. It's this is one of my favorite action movies. This is right up there with Die Hard for me. Actually, this is one of my most rewatchable films. I can watch this at any point. It's just a barrel of fun, keeps escalating, propulsive movie. Keanu Reeves, Dennis Hopper, Sandra Bullock. Dennis Hopper, by the way, great actor that I don't feel like people talk about enough.
I think it's just when people talk about him, the stuff people remember him from are the stuff that people don't want to remember at all, like Mario Brothers,
Oh yeah,
or Blue Velvet.
Yeah, but he's also in stuff like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, where he does the crazy over the top chainsaw fights, or Speed, where he plays a fantastic grimacing villain throwing out these one-liners. He nails the crazy psychopathic character role. Yeah. Anyway, Speed, up there, one of the greatest action movies of all time, on par with Die Hard. Don't at me. It's fantastic movie.
I mean, it is what it is.
Speed.
It's just, a bus and you can't stop it or people will die. It's like, what better stakes are there than that?
One thing I love about Speed actually is that, everyone talks about the whole bus subplot. It's a bus. It's if it goes below 50 miles per hour, it explodes.
Mm-hmm.
They do two things specifically in Speed that I think really push it up over the edge for me. One is that they get all the mileage they can out of this very specific narrowing scenario. You would think, they're on the bus with the bomb. What can you do on there? They find things to do. They find creative things. Oh, they have to turn a corner. They turn that into a set piece. They have to make that jump. It's crazy, but they turn it into a set piece. Oh, he's got Keanu Reeves has to go under the bus. Another set piece. So they find set pieces within this, and they just get as much stuff out of this limiting scenario that they can. The second thing that Speed does that I keep forgetting about is that the whole movie is one long action sequence, bookended by two other action sequences that I don't think people really remember. There's the elevator scene at the beginning where Dennis Hopper rigs an elevator with bombs, and then there's a whole subway chase at the end of the movie. So yeah, it's just very well constructed movie in my opinion.
No, I kind of also hold it up there pretty high as like one of the better action suspense movies out there. So yeah, good pick.
And finally, I'm going to talk about a movie. This is my first time watching it. Speed 2, Cruise Control.
All right.
Uh-huh.
As many times as I've seen Speed, I can't believe I haven't until now actually sat down to watch Speed 2. I think I've been kind of dreading this because I know that, they
Mhm.
couldn't get Keanu Reeves to come back for this one.
Mhm.
I've heard all this stuff about, oh, it's not as good. It got a PG-13 as opposed to an R, which honestly I don't really care about because I don't think of Speed as being a real R-rated movie. There's not a whole lot of violence. There's some casual f-bombs thrown around, but it's not really like a hardcore movie or anything.
Mhm.
So I finally just sat down, watched Speed 2. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's certainly nothing compared to the original Speed. It's got its moments. Willem Dafoe plays the main villain. Speed 2 takes place on a boat. IMDb says a computer hacker breaks into the computer system of the Seaborn Legend cruise liner and sets it speeding on a collision course into a gigantic oil tanker. Which that whole bit is really only a kind of a little section of the movie.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, it only really just takes up like what, like 15, 20 minutes? And
I mean, like maybe a good half hour, but I wouldn't say any more than that.
yeah, it's like it's not the whole plot there. So
Okay, Speed 2 has a lot of fun elements in it. Willem Dafoe as a villain is always fun to watch,
Oh
and
yeah.
his stuff is the best stuff in this movie. Seeing him running around the ship, hacking into stuff in the ship, rigging it up with bombs here and there.
Mhm.
And there's a big destructive third act that's also a lot of fun to watch with a lot of kind of crazy stuff going on with a lot of 90s practical effects that are really well done. I mean, the movie's still shot well. Jan de Bont also directed this one, and he is a cinematographer, so he knows how to shoot the hell out of even a bad movie. The movie doesn't have the same pace that the first Speed does. Even just on its own, you're limited from the beginning because Keanu Reeves isn't in the movie, and so putting Sandra Bullock with just another cop makes her character all of a sudden seem really flippant, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, she just moves from boyfriend to boyfriend. It makes her seem a lot more shallow. They open up with a gag about her being a terrible driver, which it the movie doesn't make Sandra Bullock's character look very good.
No, and so this was like young Sandra Bullock who was still trying to get her footing in the door in Hollywood before she became a household name. So
Well, right, because I mean, she was her character was kind of flippant and had this attitude in the first movie, but she was also a very competent character. What's his name? Jason Patrick, who comes in. He's just kind of bland compared to Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves played the nice guy really well, but he played a nice guy who also had a bit of an attitude and had a bit of
no nonsense, kind of like, just let's get the shit done.
yeah, exactly. Whereas this guy is just kind of like nice guy, and that's it.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, so it's yeah, not great. I'd say it's certainly worth a watch if you're into '90s action movies. It's got some good stuff in there. You can surf on your phone for the stuff that's not interesting, and then pay attention when it gets good again.
I do have to ask you, Joe, if they made a third Speed movie, which I can't remember if they did, who would be the villain for that one? Because they did Dennis Hopper, they did Willem Dafoe. What other crazy old actor would they have recruited for this one?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that. I have to look into that. I would like to see. I mean, the first thing that jumps to mind is who's the guy from? Is it Richard Dean Morgan from The Walking Dead?
Yeah, Richard Dean
Mhm.
Morgan.
I can
Oh,
see
yeah.
him playing a villain in one of these things.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out there, and I think this would be hilarious. Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Of course,
Why
we're
not?
sitting right
I'm
there.
on board now.
No, you see, there you go. You're getting seats in the theaters right there.
Also, I mean, this is kind of a minor complaint. I try to have very few complaints about. Well, it's not the same thing as the first Speed, because I like to try to look at movies on their own merits. But I will say, for a movie called Speed 2, it's on a big old cruise ship that's technically going fast, but doesn't really feel like it's going very fast.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going through the Barren Sea, maybe you would notice, but you're right. Not a whole lot there.
They should have put it on like a speedboat or something like that.
I see there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
right there in Long Beach or Miami. Yeah. One of those.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I got. Nate, what did you watch?
Not too much. Been pretty busy, been trying to, work on personal projects, but I decided to check out this one show because I remember my brother talking about it and he seemed really interested in it because, it has this historical outlook on American history, which I think is interesting that no one talks about it. But now with, a lot of the current events going on, it kind of became like popular on my radar. And that is the Cinemax show Warrior, which is now on HBO Max.
Oh, I want to watch this. This is on my watch list.
Yes. So if anyone's not familiar, this is based on the writings of Bruce Lee, who I guess was trying to work on this just before he passed away. But it's basically set during the Tang Wars in the late 1800s, where a martial arts prodigy from China immigrates to San Francisco to become a hatchet man for the most powerful Tang in Chinatown. This is interesting because the way it's written and the way it's acted, it's very pulpy, very schlocky. Like you listen to some of the dialogue, like it comes straight out of a Bruce Lee 70s action flick. But there's a lot of stuff that they draw attention to, like the law of the politics at the time, like how there was the working Irishmen who were angry that the Chinese were coming over, taking a lot of their jobs, taking a lot of what was going on, and how that became, gang warfare. Like they used it as an excuse to go out there and sadly brutally harass and attack Chinese and a lot of Asian immigrants for no other reason other than just that. So it does kind of draw that magnifying glass to that part. And it doesn't hold back of some of the stuff that happens. I've only seen the first 2 episodes and it's kind of horrific to see like some of the stuff that is kind of drawn attention to. But aside from that, the main actor who's playing kind of like the Bruce Lee character, Andrew Koji, is really good. He's tapping into a lot of like Bruce Lee's mannerisms and sensibilities as an actor. And he definitely got trained for this. Like there's some shots where it's just a one take where he's doing battles with just one of the other adversaries and there's no cuts. You can see this is perfectly choreographed. And I'm just kind of blown away just like how well he prepped for this. So far, I'd say I kind of like it. It's not bad. It does get a little cringy sometimes with the dialogue just because it's written so pulpy and it really draws attention to that. But aside from that, it's kind of just interesting how they're, making this kind of like almost like, I wouldn't say a historical lesson, but looking at something that, you'd think no one would really talk about. But I really recommend it.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about this show. Didn't it just get renewed for another season on HBO Max?
I believe so, yeah. So I forget when they have the next season going up, but there is I believe they're planning on releasing it by 2022. So we'll see. And then the last thing I kind of watched recently was I decided to watch a classic nostalgic piece. And Joe, I'll have to ask you about some of this stuff, but I revisited Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade from 1989, directed by Steven Spielberg.
Hey.
In 1938, after his father goes missing while pursuing the Holy Grail, Professor Henry Indiana Jones Jr. finds himself up against the Nazis once again to stop them from obtaining the Grail's powers. So, Joe, I remember a while ago you had gotten the Blu-ray set of the Indiana Jones movies, right?
Yes, last year during quarantine.
Right. And you had a chance to kind of revisit them, see a lot of behind the scenes. Let me ask you, of all of them, except for the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, because we know where everyone stands on that. I don't need to go back into that, but
it's not as bad as everyone thinks it is.
It's pretty good.
Anyway, Joe, where does this movie rank on all of those Indiana Jones movies?
It is my second favorite after Raiders.
Okay. It's kind of funny. I remember actually watching this one the most when I was growing up as a kid. And actually, I think this was the first Indiana Jones movie I saw. I don't think I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark until I was a little bit older. This one, I think I watched the most just because I had less terrifying moments in it. And I don't know. I'm just going to say it. I think the opening sequence with young Indiana Jones, doing his first, I guess, treasure hunting expedition where he's like a Boy Scout played by River Phoenix, and how he just gets all these little nuances and just trademarks of his character. And then it goes into another, escapade where he's trying to obtain the same thing again. I just still think that's like one of the best openings, best 15 minutes. I think it tops, honestly, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Really?
I think so. And I'll tell you why. Because you get the father and son dynamic earlier on in the beginning, which is one thing I think this movie trumps over Raiders of the Lost Ark. The first one was great. You have a great character. You have a great story, great adventure. I don't think the stakes had enough heart in it other than just, Indy wants to go find the Ark and obtain it before the Nazis do. With this, there's a little bit more of a personal connection. He has to save his dad, who you find out he's never had really good terms with, who's actually played really great by Sean Connery in this. I just like their whole dynamic when, he comes in halfway into the movie and you just see their banter and how they're playing off of each other. It really just nailed the father son dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think that's what pulled me through when I was younger and really enjoyed this one. And I don't know, I kind of hold it higher than Raiders.
I could understand that. I would have said the same thing probably back in high school when I was first really getting into the movies. I mean, rewatching them all four of them last year. I mean, Raiders for me at least is so head and shoulders just kind of like a perfect
Oh
movie.
yeah, I'm not denying it's a
Uh,
perfect movie.
Oh yeah, Last Crusade it's a fantastic fun movie, but for me it's kind of the most formulaic of all four of the movies. As in it sets kind of the standard. This is what I think of when I think of an Indiana Jones movie. It hits all of those beats. It has the all right. We're gonna talk about something about his past. It's got the one grotesque moment everyone remembers. It's got the supernatural object. It's got the treasure hunting. It's got the traitor. So it's kind of like Temple of Doom. I've got a lot of problems with Temple of Doom, but one thing I do appreciate about Temple of Doom, even though I think it's to its detriment ultimately, is that it tries to do a new thing. It tries, Raiders of the Lost Ark was its own thing. Temple of Doom comes in and says, we're going to take this in a very different direction. It's a different flavor of Indiana Jones. Then you hit Last Crusade, and it kind of feels like, all right, well, this is the Indiana Jones formula down to a T or whatever they call it. And then from then on, I think everyone's idea of an Indiana Jones movie comes from Last Crusade.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I kind of looking back on it, it does repeat the same formula as the first one. Like, I think, and that was something Spielberg admitted that he kind of regrets with Temple of Doom is that he kind of tried to switch up the formula, doing a lot of things that a lot of fans were really upset with. So that's why he did go back to the original formula of Raiders. Also, it's just a cool, like, dude movie. Like, I remember watching it with my dad growing up and we both loved it very much. So I don't know, it's a good father son movie. So, Father's Day comes around, put it on. And that's all I've watched.
All right, Alex, what you got?
Alrighty, so this past couple weeks I've watched. We'll start off with
Anime?
not that hard. Watched Vampire Hunter D: Bloodlust.
Oh,
The synopsis here is when a girl is abducted by a vampire, the legendary bounty hunter D is hired to bring her back. It's from 2000. It's the second in, I don't know if it's technically a series, but it's the second Vampire Hunter D movie. So I haven't seen the original. I just downloaded it just like yesterday, so I still have to watch it. Basing it off of this, though, I feel like I'm likely going to enjoy it. I did like this, so obviously I did like this one decent amount. It doesn't. It's not something entirely unique, I will say. It's a cool idea, but it's not super fascinating. And then there's just the rest of the movie it's good, but not exceptional in really any kind of way. The movie itself, it's entertaining. A lot of the locations are really gorgeous. I don't know. There's something with like 80s anime that I for whatever reason I really love.
yeah, because I guess this is my opinion of it. It kind of is almost reminiscent to that one anime. I think it's called Dark City. And it just has the same kind of like, I know like this was like a thing that anime kind of started doing. I forget the artists or the studios that dabbled into this, but they started using a lot more thicker ink lines and a lot more heavy contours to kind of like define the edges of the characters, which before it was very just like kind of like almost like imitating the manga quite a bit. But these animes were like trying to create mood. They're trying to create atmosphere, dimension just by, making the ink heavier. And it does give it a certain aesthetic. So I see what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can really dig and get into the look of like the locations and whatnot. For whatever reason, like I said, it just I really enjoy it. The character design is pretty cool. And like I said, you have D, who's half human, half vampire, which is pretty cool. The character design, kind of looking at him now, he and like a lot of the other characters, like the main villain Meyer, they're kind of edgy, by today's standards. It's kind of It's like, all right, bro, ooh, it's a cool black cloak you got there. Wow. But I mean, they're still, honestly, it's still cool. Like, I don't care. The story itself is, I mean, it's really just that. It's Dee tracking down this vampire named Meyer who's kidnapped a woman named Charlotte. Dee is hired by her family to find her and bring her back. Like, the baseline of the story, it sets it up. It's easy to follow. Like, there's nothing crazy about that, right? What I like, what's a cool, I guess, plot twist to it, or just subplot. And this is a little bit of a spoiler. There's a bit of a subplot where you're and Dee aren't really sure if Charlotte actually wants to be rescued or if she wants to stay with Meyer. And I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, you can kind of go into whether or not it's Stockholm syndrome and whatnot, but either way, I thought it was kind of a interesting subplot and something that brought an extra dimension to the movie rather than it just being a very straight line story. The movie doesn't really offer any explanations, especially in the later half where things get a little weird and the movie really just doesn't give you any sort of explanation onto what's going on or why this is happening. It just rolls with it. So maybe that's something that's better explained in the first movie. But even then, it's still at least visually interesting that you can kind of push those thoughts of why the hell is this here off to the side and just kind of roll with it.
You know, I almost kind of would save this for another podcast, but I almost feel like this is a good formula of how video game adaptations could work, where it just gives you enough of like the world that fits with the story, but doesn't need to go into all of the details. But maybe that'd be safe for another topic. But I remember that too.
Yeah. So yeah, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. Yeah, I'd say it's cool. It's a nice 2000s movie.
Think black cloaks and hats and, moody vampire killers.
Yeah. The usual.
Abraham Lincoln ain't got nothing on these bitches.
Nah. So I also watched I'm a Cyborg, but That's Okay. So it's the plot. The synopsis is a girl who thinks she's a combat cyborg checks into a mental hospital wherein she encounters other psychotics. Eventually, she falls for a man who thinks he can steal people's souls. It's a Korean movie from 2006. It's weird. Yeah, don't think I really enjoyed it all that much.
Oh, well, what was the turnoff point for you?
I don't know particularly. The story is odd. So she's, obviously psychotic and believes she's actually a cyborg. And so that's part of the story. The other part of the story is she she has her grandmother's dentures that she needs to get back to her so she can eat radishes because her grandmother believes she was a mouse and she only ate radishes. So there's that part as well. Then there's the part about the guy where the guy who believes he can take people's soul, he falls in love with her and wants to help her essentially get better and actually eat food because she believes she's a cyborg. She can't, eat food and whatnot. So he's trying to like help her so that she can eat food so she can not die.
Alex, you've neglected to tell us this is directed by Park Chan-wook.
You did.
The director of Old Boy.
Oh yeah, there's that, by the way. Yeah.
You should have led with that, Alex.
You should have. Now this changes everything, dude. This changes everything.
Okay, so there's that, by the way.
Nate's sitting here like, what the fuck is this weird movie, Alex?
No, but now that it's Park Chan-wook, like, okay, now I'm intrigued.
So now you can understand why it's weird, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'll be able to enter in a kind of a bit more of a cautionary where I'm like, okay, I'll be entertained, but no to kind of put a filter on it because it's like, this is supposed to be weird shit.
All right. Yeah. I haven't watched Old Boy, so, okay.
Old Boy, The Handmaiden, Joint Security Area.
Lady Vengeance.
Yeah, which I actually haven't seen the other two movies in the Vengeance trilogy.
Wait, Old Boy is a part of a trilogy?
I think it's like a thematic trilogy.
Yeah.
I don't think it is because the same actor plays like a guy who is a villain in Lady Vengeance. So I don't think it is part of a trilogy, but
Yeah. It is part of a trilogy. The Vengeance trilogy is Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Old Boy, and Lady Vengeance. But I don't think it's like a story trilogy where the characters
no,
follow from
yeah.
movie to movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like yeah, I know what you mean. It kind of like something a little bit like what Edgar Wright does for his like
Right.
three flavors. Like they
Exactly.
all appear in the movies, but they're not in like the same universe, but they kind of are.
Right.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay. Is a weird movie. It's a quirky movie. I feel like quirky is a really good definition of it. It's okay. Yeah,
It's alright.
it's okay. It's a little off the wall for my taste, even though I am very into very like some off the wall stuff. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
And
Real quick,
it's okay, and that's okay.
that was literally what I wrote down. I'm like, it's a weird movie, but that's okay. That's what I was supposed to. I was telling my friend about this, and he was like, you should just say it's you should just introduce the movie. It's like I'm a cyborg, but that's okay. And then all you say is it's a weird movie, but that's okay. So I'm sorry, Boomstick, I let you down.
Wait, your
Anyway,
friend's name is Boomstick?
well, that's why I know him as online.
Oh, okay.
I know him on
Well, at least it's
Discord.
not Bone Tomahawk. So,
Speaking of which,
oh,
Hey!
I watched Bone Tomahawk, and it was so cool. I thought I was gonna like it because I think Joe, you had talked about it a good bit with Nick, and reading a little bit of the conversation you had with him from a while ago. I thought I would enjoy it. I'm kind of into westerns, so I was already a bit keen to it. Looking into it, you see like the horror tag is assigned to it, so I was a little hesitant watching it as well because I don't do horror movies, but this really wasn't scary. Like, there's a couple, like, sort of, like, scary, quote, unquote, moments, but, like, there's, like, not really any, like, jump scares or anything like that, really,
no,
at
it's
all.
just horrific what they just do.
Exactly, because it's super gory, oh my god.
They split a guy in half with a tomahawk.
It's so rad, oh my god, yeah, it's so much gorier than I thought it was gonna be. I think that really that is one of the things that made me like it a lot more, was, like, how gory it was and how it just didn't hold back. It showed you, yeah, a dude getting literally held up by his legs and split in half, or a dude, like, another guy cutting open someone's throat to dig something out of it. It was just like, damn.
And now we kind of know what Alex is really into now. He won't watch gore or horror, but he'll watch that. So
Watch Western horror, Western gore. There we go. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Now, Alex, dig in deeper, watch more S. Craig Zoller.
I want to. I listened to his band as well. I can't remember what they're called.
Wait, the guy's a band?
Yeah, he's in a
Damn.
band. Yeah.
Is it any good?
It's actually decent. His band is called Realm Builder. They play like traditional doom and like traditional like heavy metal. It's all like this like fantasy setting kind of deal. He does vocals and he does drums. So yeah, I was kind of surprised. I did not know he was in a band, and much less that the band was actually going to be decent.
So
And he writes novels. I just read his book Hug Chicken Penny, and it was excellent.
Hug Chicken. Okay.
Oh, you know what? I feel like I need to kind of delve into this guy's work. He seems to be just a rare bag of just tricks that you just don't know what he's going to be all full of and talents.
He's a jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades of many things.
A real quick note on Bone Tomahawk. One of the other things I really liked about it was the dialogue. It felt like a Tarantino movie to me.
Yeah, it has like that kind of pulpy, kind of like just cool, like dialogue that just seems kind of edgy, but
Yeah,
doesn't feel like it's meant for that time period, but it just sounds so damn good when it's coming out the actor's
yeah, it's so
mouths.
cool to listen to. You can listen. Yeah, the characters are great as well. Like each of the four like main characters that goes on the hunt to find the guy's wife, they all play like, it's, I don't know, I guess Reservoir Dogs. They all have like their own like unique like sort of
Trademark.
character. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, and just the dialogue between all of them is just fantastic. Yeah, Bone Tomahawk is super cool. It's just a rad movie, honestly.
Yeah. Actually, after reading Hug Chicken Penny, which actually Hug Chicken Penny is the closest thing he's ever done to a kid's story.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's still really fucked up and like depressing and stuff,
Nice.
but it's not. I mean, it's a sort of movie where I would let a 12-year-old read that book.
Why?
Because it's about a kid who's born with all sorts of like super outlandish deformities, and it's just him living his life and just being shit on his whole life.
Oh,
It's kind of like the opposite of Wonder.
Yeah,
you know.
it's a really it's a really sad book, but it's such a well done book. I would highly recommend it. But in that book and in his later movies, I get what you mean, Alex, about the dialogue. His dialogue, everyone in his movies has this sort of flourish to the way they talk.
Yeah.
That's totally not realistic. Like you don't hear people talking about that
No.
at all.
No.
But it just makes it more interesting to listen to
Oh yeah.
and more fun to watch, and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
he gives characters kind of similar yet specifically different flourishes in the way they talk in his other movies. So yeah, check out Brawl in Cell Block 99 and Dragged Across Concrete. Highly recommend them.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. But anyway, that is what I've watched.
Anyway, on to our grab bag episode. Alright, so here we are. Welcome to the movie grab bag conversation of the Film Illiterates podcast. So the way this is going to work is I have this list of all these different grab bag of topics we have. Some of them are some of them are interesting, some of them are crazy, some of them are just what the fuck.
Yeah, I'm looking at one of them. It's why do people hate the Aladdin trailer? That's dated.
Oh yeah, that's old.
That is really old.
That's one of the things I love about this is that we just add stuff in the moment so that we can come back to stuff that we've added that's just from years ago and doesn't make any sense at all today. So this is going to be great. This is going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get Nate is on the timer. He will give us 5 minutes to discuss whatever topic we're given, and we're just going to move on, power through these. So we'll see what we get.
Awesome.
You guys ready?
Yeah, I got my beer. I got my
I'm actually not drinking beer this episode, but I really should be.
Boo.
I usually am. I almost always am. I have water this time. And the first topic is, drum roll please, beautifully shot but boring movies.
Tree of Life.
Hold on. I mean, it depends on your definition, though. Is that okay?
It's not your definition or my definition. I love this movie, but I can agree with the majority and the consensus of everyone else is that it's kind of boring.
But that's the thing. That's the thing about this topic is that this is just everyone's definition of boring is going to be different. So you could just say any Terrence Malick movie, and everyone would probably go, yeah. I could say The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. I love that movie, but it's like a 3-4 hour long movie.
Who cares?
People standing around. Well, no,
I know.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is that I think it's an excellent movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of mainstream audiences would find that movie really boring.
Mainstream audiences are dumb, though.
I mean, I'm not arguing that.
well, then I guess if you guys want to, I here's one that you might have heard of, but it's a very boring but very beautifully made movie. It's The Color of Pomegranates from 1969.
I've never even heard of this movie.
I don't know about
This is a weird avant-garde movie that's made from a Russian director named Sergei Parvajanov. I'm sorry if I butchered his name for anyone out there, but what it is it's just a biography of this famous poet in his life. And it is the weirdest but most gorgeous movie out there in its imagery, but you don't understand what the fuck is going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people with veils, headless chickens flying around.
What? That's amazing.
I mean, it happens at the very end, but it's like it's just based off of like his poetry that's supposed to represent his life. But you can actually identify some of the iconic imagery in it in other works and other music videos today. But I would say that's a beautifully shot but boring movie. So
I've got one. Hard to be a God.
Hard to be a God.
Oh,
Have you heard of this one?
Seen that. No.
Yes, I'm trying to remember what country it's from. I think it's from Russia. It's 177 minutes long, and it's in black and white. Came out in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's supposed to be about you're looking at it from the point of view of we're watching some other planet just kind of live out their lives, but the planet is they all look like people. So basically, it's humans, but they're living in kind of like a medieval setting.
Okay.
But the whole movie is in black and white, and it's all just kind of people walking through this awful, awful society where they're walking through mud and shit, and people are constantly like hawking loogies everywhere, and there's people are getting stabbed, and there's blood. It's just a gross, gross movie, and it's fascinating for the first maybe half hour, and then after that you're like, okay, I get it. And the movie just keeps going, and it keeps going. It's just the same thing over and over again. Just this beautifully shot, disgusting imagery of people just slogging through this awful life. And it gets really boring really quickly because it's super repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's very highly acclaimed. A lot of people like this movie. It's no, sorry, not for me. I couldn't stand it.
All right.
It goes on for like what is it? 177 minutes translates to how many hours?
True.
It's over 3 hours.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Close to 3 hours. Close to 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Alex?
What about Her?
Really? You
I
don't
like
like Her?
So I watched Her years ago. It's a gorgeous movie. I just was not that into it, man.
Is it just hit too close to home for you, man, or something?
Oh, hey, no, bro. You didn't need to go there.
No, we got dude.
Damn.
That was my bad. That was a low blow, dude.
Clean out that USB port, Alex.
Bro. I don't know. It just really wasn't that interesting to me. It's one of the movies where I really, really need to rewatch it because I feel like I would love it. But watching it, several years ago, I was actually like disappointed watching it because like I thought it was gonna be great. I thought I was gonna love it, and I just didn't. It's gorgeous. It's beautifully shot. Soundtrack's cool too. I think Arcade Fire did the soundtrack.
Yeah, they did.
I just didn't really care for it.
It's kind of hard because most of it is just Joaquin Phoenix just talking to Scarlett Johansson, and that's it.
And I really like Joaquin Phoenix as an actor. I think he's fantastic. So I don't really know why I didn't really enjoy it, but yeah, that I guess that's my pick for like it's a gorgeous movie, but I just found it boring.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's okay to be wrong sometimes.
All right.
And that's it for 5 minutes.
Wow.
All right, next topic is best dead body acting.
Oh,
Best dead body acting.
Best dead body acting. This goes to Weekend at Bernie's 2, hands down. I will not be taking questions. Thank you very much. That is the answer.
there's literally another topic in our grab bag
Mhm.
spreadsheet that's Weekend at Bernie's 2 review.
I know.
Gee, I wonder who put that
I
there.
wonder
I
who.
wonder. It's literally two. It's literally one more down from the best dead body acting entry.
I mean, I guess if we want to put dead body acting, Swiss Army Man, Daniel Radcliffe,
I mean, that's the obvious one.
is the
It's also
obvious.
the boring one,
But it's like, I don't think it counts because he's not necessarily dead throughout the whole movie. He's just lying there and he's still talking. It's just, I don't think it counts though.
Okay, how about this one? He's not technically dead, but he damn near looks like it. The Machinist.
True.
Christian Bale.
Yeah, that's pretty much that's commitment right there. What
Yeah,
he dropped?
right?
He dropped to like 90 pounds for that.
Something ridiculous. Yeah. And then like a few years later, he bulked up for Batman. Like Jesus, dude.
That guy's like a yo-yo when it comes to his weight and figure. It's like he goes from a size 2 to a size 6, size 2,
And then like goes way up. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know any other. That's such an odd question. I don't really know what other dead bodies I've seen in movies.
Oh, I've got one.
Okay.
Spoiler alert for Dead Silence, but Dead Silence, directed by James Wan.
That's I guess so. I haven't seen that one, but I'll take your word
you
for
haven't
it.
seen that one?
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, there's there's a whole plot point that a character you thought was alive was actually a dead body being puppeteered
Oh, interesting. All right.
from 2007.
Huh.
I mean, okay, can we just talk about Weekend at Bernie's and Weekend at Bernie's
I've
2?
never seen it.
I mean,
man.
I've seen the first Weekend at Bernie's. Yeah.
So people, I mean, I assume you guys know the general plot of Weekend at Bernie's and Weekend at Bernie's 2 is that this couple of kids need to keep a dead body looking like it's alive to make people think that the guy's alive still at his house. And so they're just kind of like propping up this dead body like in different places throughout the movie. Weekend at Bernie's 2, he gets under some sort of curse or magical spell so that the body has to, I think it's like dance whenever he hears like reggae music.
Oh my gosh, what?
So throughout the movie, you have this guy, this corpse guy, just like dancing around throughout the movie and walking around. At one point, he's carrying like a carriage like behind him. He gets an arrow shot through his head. It's the wildest stuff. People like to shit on Weekend at Bernie's 2, but I say that is a masterpiece of a movie and is the best damn dead body acting I've ever seen in a movie.
Interesting. I mean, I guess if you count like the sequel as like a good example of that, all right. Um, I'm gonna say I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Brooke and Hare, the Simon Pegg and Andy Serkis
Oh, I
movie,
forgot about
there
that. I have seen
there's
that.
a lot of scenes where they have actual actors be dead bodies, and the antics that they pull off in that scene. It's kind of hard just to watch that movie and not be kind of like totally disgusted, but laughing your ass off. And I'm just trying to remember like how these guys kept a straight face while trying to pull off some of these maneuvers. It is one of those interesting things where it's like, yeah, the guys who are playing the dead bodies in that is kind of interesting to see.
Weird.
Can we put Bad Boys 2 up there as well?
Bad Boys 2?
With the morgue scene where they're hiding among all the dead bodies. I don't know if those were real actors or just like dummy props there. But it's a memorable scene with dead bodies in it.
True. I guess also since you just recently watched this, The Mystery of the Wax Museum is a good.
Oh, that's actually that's actually a very good point, a very interesting one, because they actually they got wax figures, but they had to cast actors in as wax figures for a couple times because the lights melted the original wax figures.
Right.
So
Oh my
you're
gosh.
right. You have actual actors playing corpses disguised as wax figures
Pretty much
in that movie.
Yeah.
Alright.
So it is living up to its name as their
That's
actual dead
true.
bodies. So
Poltergeist, which reportedly has actual dead bodies in it.
Oh,
that's true.
all right.
And I guess this also counts as well, but it's not a dead person, but the horse from The Godfather. I mean, that's commitment right there, getting an actual dead horse.
And we're not gonna get any better than that.
Nope.
So that'll put a pin in it.
All right. Well, that's it for 5 minutes, dude.
Next topic is movies full of shit, and it says interpret this however you
Oh.
want. Hey,
Hard to be God.
hard to be a god.
There you go. Hard to be a god.
I knew
Right
what you were
there
gonna
at the
say.
top. I guess here's the thing. Not necessarily a. I'm trying to think.
Huh.
Well, here's one. I guess you could say Slumdog Millionaire. There's that one scene in the very beginning. If you guys remember the movie,
I haven't seen Slumdog Millionaire in a long
it's
time.
the first scene when like the kid is on the toilet, and it's this toilet overlooking the river, and his favorite actor comes and he wants to see it, but his brother locked him in the toilet, and the only way he can get out is through the poop hole and into the shit.
Oh.
And he comes out in shit. So that
Hey, that happens in one of the Hobbit movies too, where they climb into a house through the toilet.
Oh, really?
that too. Yes.
Huh.
And that movie, I don't agree with this, but a lot of people will say that movie looks like shit too.
I mean, yes, that is true. I'm trying to think, man.
There's got to be lots of excrement-filled movies that I'm forgetting, like really obvious ones that listeners right now are screaming at us.
Yeah. There's a movie called Street Trash. It's not technically shit, but like it's about like these like hobos, and they end up drinking this like weird like cursed poison kind of thing that like
Mhm.
turns them into this like bubbly like gooey mush.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, it's other than it being like multicolored, like neon colored, it's kind of like shit, I guess.
Oh, I think I've found one. Here's one. I would love to actually watch this movie with you guys, but Dogma. There's a scene in Dogma where a demon comes out of like the toilet, and it is made of shit and excrement and everything else that would go into it. And I don't know. Some people would say Kevin Smith's movies are full of it, but
That's right.
weird.
I can't believe that didn't come to mind right away. I didn't see that movie all that long ago either. It was just like last year or the year before,
Mhm.
I think.
Here's another one. John Waters' Pink Flamingos.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it, but I know of it, and you can add to that same list Sallow, I guess.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
I forgot.
Which again, I still haven't seen Sallow,
Yeah,
but
same.
it's reputation.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
We all know its reputation. Same
Yep.
thing with Pink Flamingos.
What movie is full of shit is Religulous by Bill Maher.
That
Oh.
too. I mean,
We're just talking strictly my personal biases against movies and what they stand for.
Hey, no worries. I
That's
haven't.
such a terrible name for. Oh my
It
gosh!
is
Come
a
on,
table
man.
name. Train Spotting. I think there's
Yes.
some wonderful
Oh
scenes in that,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
yeah. But here's the thing: it's not a shitty movie. It's a good
That was
movie,
a really good movie.
but
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's
great movie.
some really awful like excrement
Mm-hmm.
scenes in that where it's like it's
Mhm.
very disgusting to watch. But you kind of get into that world and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. True.
I watched a movie that was shot for less than $100,000 recently, put out by Vinegar Syndrome on beautiful Blu-ray from a 16 millimeter from the 1980s, called Beyond Dream's Door. There isn't shit in it, but there's a scene where they actually filmed it in the sewers.
Oh,
So I guess
so
actors might have been running around dirty water.
Mhm.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
true. I guess some people would also say the 2012 musical adaptation of Les Mis. There is a scene where the main characters are running through, I wouldn't say running, but they're trying to get away through the sewers and they get covered in it.
Oh, that's right.
And depending on your taste on musical theater, people also say the movie's pretty shitty too.
I'm not a fan.
Oh,
I mean,
I like it.
I like it too, but I will respect people's opinion when they say, yeah, there's problems, which I'll admit, yeah.
There was a great video by the YouTuber Sideways who he deconstructs music in movies, and he has a great video on Les Mis. Now I like Les Mis quite a bit, but he does a great breakdown about the problem with the way that they recorded the music in Les Mis, and so I would highly recommend checking out his Les Mis video Sideways.
Cool. I will check that out.
That's fine.
All right, I hear the timer. So next topic. Romantic love stories that are actually creepy if you think about it. Her.
Well, yes, that's that. Thank you for jumping on that. I was going to immediately say that.
My God, you were like,
I'm going to jump on this now.
that was too quick.
I was reading it. I was like, wait, we just talked about her. I gotta get it in now.
I'll probably say, I mean, everyone else has said it. Beauty and the Beast is actually kind of a pretty creepy movie, keeping a girl against her will until she gets Stockholm syndrome. So,
Yeah.
Why you gotta ruin things I like, Nate?
but, you know, I'm just saying what it is, and everyone else has said it. So,
What's that? Lars and the Real Girl. Where?
Oh yeah.
Who's the actor in that one?
oh, Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling,
Mhm.
dude.
Ryan Gosling. Yeah, Ryan Gosling with a sex doll, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
I mean, it's a sweet movie. It's a sweet,
but it's
innocent
also-
movie.
It's a little, it's kind of creepy, man.
It is a little creepy. Yeah.
Let's see. There was one I was just thinking about.
There's got to be some like old black and white movies that just watching it in modern day context haven't aged well.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess some people would shit on a lot of James Bond movies, but I wouldn't.
I mean, those aren't really romantic love movies.
Well,
No, I mean,
romantic love stories. Okay. This may be an extremely hot take. I don't remember being too enthralled with Rebecca, Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca.
I have a problem with that movie too, and I think it's similar for the same reasons. So
yeah, I would need to rewatch it, so I'm not really going to talk about it here because I don't remember it all that well. But I do remember kind of watching it and thinking that I know the stories about manipulation in relationships, but I just remember something about it just not really sitting with me all that well. And I can't say more than that because I don't remember it all that well.
here's an interesting one. I remember bringing this up a while ago in a podcast, but some people could say Somewhere in Time is kind of a very creepy romantic movie. I mean, this whole premise, I think I told you guys, is about a guy who falls in love with an actress from the 1914 era, and he decides to go back in time, and he knows and learns everything about her, knows about her history, and he goes and he meets her for the first time. It's her first time meeting him, and it's like, if this wasn't tried to drawn up as a romance, this is kind of creepy.
yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty creepy.
But, a lot of people look past that. It's like, huh. I was just thinking about it the other day. I'm like, that is a very creepy premise.
In the realm of romances with artificial intelligence, there's the movie I just rewatched this recently. Got it on Blu-ray. Looks great. It's Electric Dreams from 1984.
Okay.
The movie isn't. I mean, it's about a nice romance between a guy and the it's the girl next door story. It's She literally lives in the apartment, I think, above him or next to him.
Mhm.
But the guy has what amounts to the 1980s version of a Google Home, like this home computer that does everything for him, and it becomes sentient and it falls in love with her, but she doesn't even know that it exists. And so it
Hmm.
becomes this Cyrano de Bergerac scenario where the computer is writing love songs for the guy to give to the girl, and then the computer falls in love with the
Oh,
girl.
yeah.
And so like the whole movie, it's really like getting super jealous
Mhm.
about her, and it's meant to be kind of. I mean, the movie's a lighthearted '80s comedy, but
Hmm.
it's meant to be shown as kind of antagonistic of like this thing has these burgeoning emotions that it doesn't know how to process, literally process, because it's a computer.
Right.
I'm so smart.
Yeah.
I'm so funny. And it ends up becoming kind of psychotically possessive towards the end.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
it's actually a good movie. It's better. I've watched it for the second time recently. It's better than I remember it being the first time. So if you can find it, I'd heck recommend it.
If we're, it's not technically a romance movie, but not really a romance movie, kind of at all, really. But Ex Machina.
I mean, yeah, that's a given. I think it goes for the
Yeah.
creep factor.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely goes for it, but like, yeah, it's creepy.
that fits in there. Yeah.
But also, Groundhog Day can kind of be a little creepy
I would say
in a way,
so, yes.
because like Bill Murray's like he's literally just reliving every day to like try to get the girl, and it's just like pretty much stalking her
I mean,
so he can learn about her as much as possible,
I would say
and just like to be able to say like the right thing.
yeah, but I think there's something that comes as a byproduct of that, which I don't think he was expecting, which is yes, he's trying to win her over, but then when he
Mhm.
realizes, you know what, I'm not trying to win you over. I'm actually just much more infatuated with just getting to know you. And that's
Yeah.
what kind of builds off of that.
I wouldn't say it's a really like a really perfect example at all,
Mhm.
but like I guess you can kind of twist it in a way that it sounds a bit creepy.
Mhm. You could.
All right, here's a wild one for you. Again, not a romance movie. The Bee Movie.
Yeah, Ben Stiller as a little
Oh yeah,
bee.
As a bee
absolutely.
falling in love with a human.
That is really
It's
creepy.
not Ben Stiller.
It is Ben Still. No, so it's Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah.
Jerry
Yeah.
Seinfeld.
Which makes it even
Yeah.
more creepy.
Barry B. Benson.
Oh, that is really creepy. So, okay. Actually, here's an interesting one. I don't think you guys have heard of this, but this is one I remember actually looking up again. It's called Indecent Proposal. This one stars Woody Harrelson, Demi Moore, and Robert Redford. So in this, Woody Harrelson and Demi Moore are a married couple who go to Vegas and they blow all their money and they're stupid and they're in debt. And so this like philanthropist millionaire played by Robert Redford makes a proposal to them saying, "Hey, I will give you this much money if you let me sleep with your wife." And
Ooh.
Woody
Huh.
Harrelson just like says, "Yeah, I'm in debt, so sure, I'll do it." I'm like,
Huh.
it kind of tries to create this melodrama, this bittersweet, like, oh, he's given up his wife and for the sake of like trying to, not get them in debt, but it's kind of creepy. It's almost like he's pimping her out.
Yeah, that is creepy. That is weird.
I mean, you can look at it from that perspective, but it's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
So that's one. And
Yeah,
it's
that definitely is one.
Oh, While You Were Sleeping, the Sandra Bullock movie.
oh yeah, you're right.
Where it's been a while since I've seen it, but I believe she's there when some random guy goes into a coma, I believe, or she brings him to the hospital or something like that, and she tries to pass off as dating him or as his fiance or something like that. It's been a long time since I've seen the movie.
I'm sorry. This will be the last one, but this is a good one, and it's more recent. Wonder Woman 1984.
Oh, excellent choice.
I mean, nobody thinks about this, but she roofies a random guy to basically become Stephen Taylor again. So it's like, okay. And then he just like goes back to normal afterwards and he doesn't remember a thing. I'm like, so it's the guy got roofied this time by Princess Diana.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's it. We kind of went over time on that one, but I don't know. I was trying to think of a good one to end on. Like that's a good one.
Alrighty, so the last topic of the day. If I can find which tab I put the spreadsheet in.
He's like a million open right now.
I do. Well, I mean, not a million, but I got too many. Last topic is worst decade for movies.
Probably the 90s.
I would actually disagree.
There was
90s or 2000s. No, not the 2000s. Actually, sorry, not the 2000s.
Yeah, not the 2000s.
Definitely not. But maybe the 90s.
I'm gonna, sheesh, that's a hard one to say. I could almost say the 50s was actually a pretty bad year for movies. I mean, yes, it was a golden era in Hollywood, but there was nothing really challenging being made at the time that was groundbreaking.
You know, 10 years ago, I would have strongly disagreed with you about the 50s.
Okay.
Today, though, I think there's a serious case to be made that the 50s was one of the worst decades because, let's go back, 20s, you have the silent films,
Yeah.
you have a lot of innovation going on. 30s has just flat out some of my favorite thrillers and a lot of, again, more innovative movies. You've got the way color is being experimented with in the 30s. You've got, in my opinion, some of Hitchcock's best work comes from the 30s. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but me personally, a lot of the movies I like to watch of his come from the 30s. And you have the split between the pre-code era, you know, the 1930 through 33, to the post-Hays Code era. So you have that kind of split in, you know, really edgy pushing material to filmmakers trying to figure out what they can do within these stricter restraints and still talk about serious topics. Then you have the 40s, which, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with the 30s. I'll be honest, I'm not as knowledgeable about the 40s when it comes to filmmaking.
I mean, I think what the 40s was, I noticed at least that was really the year of film noir. Like we saw a lot of the Humphrey Bogarts, a lot of those crime detective thrillers coming to the forefront, and there were some really good ones. I don't know. I think the reason why I would say the 50s was probably the worst era is because by that point, I think Golden Hollywood had like labeled itself as what it is, like a staple. And a lot of movies, a lot of just big like pictures that were coming out were just catering to that. And they weren't doing anything really innovative, just kind of pandering to the crowd.
Yeah, and one thing you did have in the 50s, though, that I absolutely love is the 50s sci-fi movies. You've got the Ray Harryhausen and all that. But you also got those in the 60s, and you got them better in the 60s.
True. That is true. And maybe, I guess you could say they go hand in hand. But at the same time, I can almost say kind of this era right now that we're in, the 2010s, before the 2020s, was not necessarily a great year for movies either.
I mean, you've got great movies. One thing that the 2010s had that a lot of other eras don't is this bigger focus, I think, on foreign films becoming more well-known, becoming more, I don't want to say prestigious, but more recognized. But we did, I think the 2010s have been lackluster as far as it just kind of blockbuster innovation goes. Apart from the MCU. I mean, the MCU obviously has been a huge impact on blockbuster filmmaking, and that came to prominence more in the 2010s.
Yes.
But if you think of the early 2000s, I think filmmakers were trying to figure out how to blend practical effects and CGI effects that they just had started working on, in the 90s.
Yeah.
And they perfected that in the early 2000s. And I think in the early 2000s, you have some examples of perfect blending of how to make movies look really, really good. I love the sheen on just like early 2000s movies. I love that Roland Emmerich look that you get on a lot of those movies, which you don't get anymore. Right now, it's more of the little bit more desaturated look, more emphasis on how complicated and detailed are the CGI effects. So I think things have been, compared to the early 2000s, I think they've been more lackluster recently.
And if anything, I kind of just feel like a lot of the movies became a lot more formulaic once they found something that worked, that was a predecessor of the 2010s. Like I think everything after Iron Man followed that similar trademark of look, style, feel for the MCU. Same thing with Disney. I think Disney kind of became like they just had their own formula of how to do a Disney movie. And there wasn't anything really new or challenging. I think it overshadowed a lot of the more innovative stuff. Like I saw a lot of good movies in that time, but a lot of it was overshadowed and isn't really remembered of leaving that much of an impact. So that's why I would say maybe that was probably the worst decade.
I think why I said the 90s is I just don't like the look of 90s stuff.
Really?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. Even though like the 90s has like some of my favorite movies, like The Iron Giant, Seven, Jinro,
I mean, Pulp Fiction.
yeah, Pulp Fiction, Big Lebowski,
Yeah.
Rushmore. Wes
Uh,
Anderson got to start in the
Yeah,
90s.
exactly.
So,
All
I
the
mean,
Coen
like,
brothers, like some of their greatest stuff was during that time. And also 1999 was a great year of movies, in my opinion. So that's why
we
I
had,
can't.
we had Star Wars Episode 1 in 99.
I mean, I was thinking Memento and Fight Club and Sixth
Oh, yeah,
Sense and being
there's
John
that.
Malkovich, but yeah, sure, yeah,
All right, I guess so. Yeah, I no, it's literally just like, and the same for like music as well. The 90s is kind of like one of my least favorite decades. I just don't like the look of it. Looks gross.
I mean, I can see with that being a thing. It was something that became popularized. Like a lot of just music just became, there wasn't really anything innovative. It's just cheap and whatever sold and whatever, kids were listening to. And the same thing with movies.
Yeah.
You're right.
But I mean, you even in music, you also had like grunge becoming a thing in the 90s. I don't care for grunge really like at all.
Oh.
So
Well, I can see
that's
also why episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is such a iconic movie for you because it started the long debated discussion. Is Jar Jar Binks actually necessary?
No. Nope.
I mean,
nobody
no.
thinks
But the
that.
thing is, so many people are coming to George Lucas's defense, and he
This isn't a
defends.
conversation, Nate. Nobody
It's
agrees.
it's literally just nostalgia. They're not thinking clearly.
No, but
it's just like, oh, I like my childhood. That means Jar Jar Binks is great. No, Jar
Hold
Jar
on,
Binks is
hold on. I actually liked Phantom Menace. Like as a movie, I think I think it's a fairly good movie. But nobody, even Phantom Menace defenders won't say Jar Jar is necessary.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see in 5 years when people are watching back on like how Disney handled Star Wars, and they're like, "Man, we miss the days of George Lucas when he was like helming this whole thing." We probably like Jar Jar Binks. Just watch how much that turned heel.
It's just going to be people looking at it in rose tinted glasses.
Probably.
That's all it really is, I think. So I almost said the 2000s, and then I realized my favorite movie was released in the 2000s. I had to walk that back real quick.
Yeah, you probably should take that back really fast.
I will say, I think we can all agree that 3 decades that are not contenders for worst decade are 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
80s?
Yeah,
80s?
80s.
80s had some good stuff.
It did.
I
yeah.
mean, Shining
Mhm.
had E.T.
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back.
Well, I'm thinking of this in terms of visual effects and practical effects. It was a peak time for effects before we moved into CG. It was I was thinking of John Carpenter's The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even some of the early movies like early CGI movies like Tron. There was a lot of spearheading the CGI movement at that time. I mean, they weren't great CGI, but again, it's innovative early adoption of these stuff that would come to more prominence later on.
I just think there's also a lot of trash in the 80s, like a lot of trash.
That is true.
Mhm.
I would say that's also true of most any decade if you really dug into any decade's filmography, though.
Yeah.
What makes the 80s trash so much more prominent, I think, is that a lot of people love 80s trash,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
we're still talking about it.
I think that's a fair point.
That's true.
Yeah. All right.
So
Okay.
that will end our frantic grab bag episode.
Yep, there we go. Just toss that in the waste bin.
Toss that grab bag right in the trash where it belongs. So yeah, that will end this episode of the Film Illiterates podcast. I guess next episode is whose turn is it to pick a movie next time? Actually,
I thought it was your turn.
I picked
actually,
last.
You know what? I think you're right, and I'm just gonna pick something at random from my watch list right here,
right now.
Oh.
right now. I'm gonna have us watch A Feast at Midnight from 1994, directed by Justin Hardy.
Interesting.
I know nothing about this. I don't even know why it's on my watch list, but it's got Christopher Lee on it, and he looks like he's with a Tyrannosaurus Rex shadow.
What is this movie?
I know absolutely nothing about this, but apparently you can rent it online, so we're watching this.
All right.
We're going into this blind, guys. We're just gonna walk right into this and no regrets.
This episode of the Film Illiterates podcast. You can watch and listen to more podcasts on our YouTube channel and our website, filmilliterates.com. Alex, where can people find you?
Well, we've filmed a bunch of old episodes of Film Illiterates, so you can find those on the channel and the site. For me personally, you can find me on Letterboxd, My Anime List, and Rate Your Music under the name Half Scrim. I'm also on Twitter at Alex D. Patton.
Nate?
You can find me here at filmilliterates.com. I do these podcasts and films from time to time with Joe and Alex. I'm also on Instagram under Nathan_Stone_films or Starlord Rules. Follow that if you can. And I'm also on Letterboxd, where I try to keep up my video diary, but I will do better.
And you can find me at Letterboxd at Film Illiterates and at YouTube at Film Illiterates is the username as well. And wait, did I say YouTube or Twitter just now?
You said YouTube, but Twitter.
I meant Twitter.
Okay, Twitter. I mean, have you actually updated your Twitter in a while, or is it still pretty?
I post every once in a while. I'm not on there as all the time, but I post from time to time.
Every couple of years, you know.
Every couple of I'm more active on there than I don't know.
Than I am.
Than Alex.
Than Alex,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
True.
Alrighty, so in the meantime, this has been the Film Illiterates podcast. Keep watching movies and keep it easy.